Alright, so on this video, this is kind of what the basic mock trial for what it looks like to train and prep for the mission trip will look like in our workshop. And so this would be coming after our panel with a missionary, and we will transition from that into the beginning of our mock training for our mission trip. So, all right. With that being said, the place that we are going to serve in as a team, and you guys, this is a mock trial, so obviously this is a very short rundown of what this looks like for an actual mock training. It's 30 minutes, but I mean, the reality is this would probably be a 2-hour thing, especially for short-term mission trips. There's really not a whole lot to do outside of the logistics parts for training and prepping yourself to engage these people. So with that being said, we are going to pretend as if we are partnering with AMG Missions, which stands for Advancing the Ministry of the Gospel. And this is this organization is very focused on engaging culture, but in a different way that our Western society is used to. And so this organization was started in 1942, and they are currently in 35 different countries, and we will be partnering with the missionaries that are in Uganda, which is in Central Africa. The missionaries that will be there, their last name is Musimi, so the Musimi family. The father, who is Reuben, the mother, who is Florence, and then they have 4 little girls, Sophia, Krista, Rachel, and Becky. They are all partnering together as the family that they have trained in Uganda. So the way AMG works is that instead of sending missionaries from the West and sending them from church, being sent missionaries, much like the International Mission Board does, they actually go train missionaries that are born and raised in the culture that is being reached, so that the missionaries that are considered missionaries in that country are actually natives of that nation. Therefore, there are less barriers to cross over and climb over in terms of engaging people. And so the Musimis are a family that we'll be working with. I personally have had 2 different trips where I've engaged with the Musimis in Uganda. They're a great family, and Reuben is incredible, an incredible man who I truly believe has a heart for the Lord, is doing great things in Uganda. And so they have some areas of ministry. Not only do they serve with AMG International, but they have included a Bible college and church training, a child care ministry, a radio ministry, a prison Bible study, medical ministries, and then they have an actual school that's kind of like the Ugandan version of a private Christian school called Upendo Christian Academy. They center everything they do around the passage Colossians 1:28. And that says, "And we proclaim him, admonishing every man and teaching every man with all wisdom, that we may present every man complete in Christ." And so I'm really excited about the fact that we get to go over to Uganda and partner with the Musimi family. Their daughters are both, they both have graduated in their secondary school and are now in what they call the university school. All of them are strong believers, and all of them have a great heart for the Lord. And so with that being said, since we're going to Uganda, I hope you're excited. This will be my 3rd time going over there. I love that country with everything in me, and I also love the Musimi family. Now, there are logistics that we have to discuss before we even consider what the trip looks like and what we actually look like as a people of America going over to engage in this culture. So we just have some basic point-by-point things that we have to discuss regarding the logistics before the trip. The first thing is your passport. Your passport is basically your ticket to do anything and at anywhere. First of all, you need to apply for a passport if you've not had one. If you do have one, it must be in use. When you present your passport at the airport, it has to be more than 6 months away from the date to which is no longer usable. And so with that being said, if you do have a passport, please check. The last thing you want to do is you want to leave the country and go to Uganda and then not be able to come back because it's within 6 months of becoming invalid. So check your date. If that's the case, you do need to reapply. You want to make sure it doesn't expire. That's the bottom line. I've actually had people that it has not expired, but become easily within 7 months, 6 months, and that country they can't send them back. Or people have gotten to the airport and they've been 7 to 8 months away from expiration, and the airline will not let them fly. So that's very important. The second thing is a visa. So we are going to a country that requires a visa. And when you have a passport, you can apply for a visa if you want to. This usually takes several months, but the thing about the passport is that you're not really going to work or do anything over there, so the necessity for a visa is different. Now, when you are on the airline and right before you land, they're going to hand out these little short survey things that ask why you're there, what do you plan on doing. And that kind of takes the place of a work visa, so that you're there for, we don't necessarily write down we're there for a short-term mission trip, but what we do focus on is how we are there specifically to engage culture and sightsee. So we are just there as visitors. The thing I want to talk about right now, though, is funds. So aside from passport and visa, you are given the opportunity to raise funds if you can't support yourself. Now this trip ends up being about $4,200. For a number of reasons, but if I know a lot of you, there's help that's needed. With that being said, we offer scholarships that can help, but a $700 scholarship is a huge chunk of money, but it's not $4,200. So what does this look like for you? If you can't fund your own trip, if you don't think you're going to be able to make the money, this is very interesting, because some people don't necessarily love this idea about raising support. And what that means is that you write a letter and you send it to people who you think would support you in your trip and essentially give you money. But a lot of people disagree with this method simply because they feel like it's wrong to ask for money for you to go to a trip. Here's my input on that. As a leader of your team in this mock trial, I firmly support that. I think that I have had people that have invested in me and helped me go overseas, and I've been able to come back as a result of that and sit down with pictures and stories and life-changing moments, and also have been able to show them what their money did in terms of helping the organization that you partner with or the missionaries that you partner with. And so it's a way for them to get plugged in nationally or internationally too, as well. And it's a blessing to them in the end. I think that there's importance and emphasis shown in support, because I think that these people that can't go over there are able to give to people that can. And so when you're raising support, you're not stealing money from people, but you're actually raising support, like they support you as you go out and do that. The next thing is packing. Here's the reality of things. We'll be over there for 14 days. You don't need 14 outfits. You will re-wear an outfit. I personally pack 3 pairs of pants and about 6 pairs of shirts. And I rotate things nonstop. Now, girls are probably freaking out, but the reality of the fact is that in Uganda, we're going to require you to wear, if you're not wearing pants, you're wearing long skirts with t-shirts tucked in. And so the skirts are really reusable. They're actually apparently really comfortable is what they say, and so this should not be an issue to you. Now, within this packing issue, there's a weight limit to your baggage, and so your weight limit is 50 pounds internationally on Delta, which is we'll fly Delta from here to Amsterdam, and then fly from Amsterdam to Entebbe, Uganda on KLM, which is partnered with Delta, so they have pretty much the same rules. So with that being said, you need to pack light regardless. If you kind of want to know what this looks like, you can go online and check their airline stuff there. But it might be helpful to pack, things in a way that, there's different ways you can pack to make it light. You can take your clothes and you can roll it up and stack them all one. You can save room for food and all that stuff. Medication should be on your carry-on. We want to make sure that we keep that, especially if it's something that you absolutely need. There are no restrictions for carry-on luggage. The Transportation Security Administration, aka TSA, the website should be reviewed, and there's information on there that we can look at as well. Always pack a change of clothes on your carry-on luggage. Here's why. You do not want to be the person that gets there and then your luggage is not there in Uganda. It's somewhere between here and there, within the flight change in Amsterdam, your luggage doesn't make the plane that goes to Uganda. So, with that being said, you don't want to be that person and then have no clothes whatsoever. You want to at least have 1 or 2 backup outfits in your carry-on to make sure that you can avoid just not having any clothes and having to spend money to buy stuff, because that takes days for your bag to get there, unfortunately. And you always want to be prepared in case your luggage does not arrive. Now, in terms of other packing things and just general things, you're going to have to buy a transformer and a converter for your electrical devices. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that you're allowed to bring a straightener, girls, but I do think that if you are using your phone for pictures and music and whatnot, your regular outlet is not the same here as it is in Uganda, and so you're going to have to buy a converter that plugs into theirs and then converts it to yours. Especially for charging cameras and cell phones and whatnot, and you're going to have to check the voltages that work in some foreign countries. Also, if you plan on having cell service over there, you can go to your provider and set that up, and there's a international line that you can hook up to. And honestly, though, I'm gonna urge you to stay away from that. And I think that we'll talk about that later. But the importance of leaving America and leaving the West when you can. Pictures are a great way to connect, so I encourage you to take pictures. I encourage you to really plug in and be present. And then other things that we'll talk about in just a minute, like basic words and languages of the countries, and the do's and don'ts of a mission trip are really important. So that's the basic overview concerning your passport packing. If you have any questions, I have more information. If not, if you pretty much got an idea, good for you. Now here's the real important thing for training. The logistics on the field are more important than the logistics before the trip. And this is what I mean by that. We can sit here and talk about this all day, but the matter of fact is, what you learn in this training has to not be applied. And what is applied is very important. So with that being said, here's some practical information for traveling. Number 1, you need to expect flight delays. Except that airline schedules and weather and all that stuff is out of your control. And so there will be times when our flight is delayed and our 3-hour layover will turn into an 8-hour layover and we'll be camping out in Starbucks in the airport. You have to understand that this is all out of your control. 2 Samuel talks about how things such as that are God's battle, not yours. And so basically, what we want to remember is that it's out of your control. Continue to soak up, continue to be present, and to be in a state of service. Always stay with your group. I'm going to say that wherever we are from a compound in Uganda to the airport in Amsterdam, groups of 3 or more with a guy in every group. Ooh, excuse me. With that being said, if you're going to the bathroom, get a shop at the airport, anything, be in those groups of 3 with a guy in the group, and always let an adult leader know that you are going to wherever you're going. Keep the noise level down, and this is what I mean by this. It is so easy in our American culture to be loud and accepted. However, that's culturally to us, not other nations, and so we are known for being loud and obnoxious. So let's respect the cultures that we're in. Let's remember that not only do we represent our country, but we also represent our faith that we're carrying with us. So to be good stewards of the time we have there, and to be good stewards of the representation that we have and the name that we carry on our backs. With that being said, don't wear patriotic clothes or anything like that. This says like America over everybody and stuff like that. I want to reemphasize that our whole mission here is to engage with people to reach and to expose them of the gospel. And if there's anything that can hinder us from doing that, we're going to avoid that. And in this case, flaunting that our country is better than yours is kind of hindering that in a sense. So I would urge you to not wear any patriotic clothing or even like Christian slogan T-shirts. Like don't do that. It could be a hindrance and could turn people off immediately. Always know where your important things are: your passport, your money, all that stuff. They make actually little things you can keep all that in. We'll talk about that another time. When going through security in airports, remember, and this is, I'm talking about airports, and I said this was logistics on the field. From the time we load the bus to the time we get off the bus in America, we're on the field. Doesn't matter where we are. Doesn't matter if we're in Uganda, Amsterdam, America. We are always on mission. And so this is why I'm referring to this part right here. Don't be dumb. Like, don't Don't walk up to the security guy and lean over to your friend and go, "Hey, did you take your gun out of your wallet?" and then start laughing, because they will take it seriously. So we need to make sure that's important. Shoes, in terms of shoes, when you go through security checkpoints, you're going to take them on and off. So if you have any type of shoes, slip-ons or whatever, that's very much advised. And then also you're going to be asked questions in security when you arrive in Uganda, and then also when you arrive back in America. Don't be intimidated by these questions. These are not only these people just doing their jobs, but this is a time where you just need to answer as simply as possible. Where were you? What are you doing? Did you bring this back? No, yes, I was here. Why? I was just visiting for sightseeing. And if he says, what did you see? You should have tons of answers of what you saw. A jackfruit tree or whatever. It should be very simple. Also, I'm going to advise you to get as much sleep on the plane as possible for where we'll be moving. Now, here is practical information on the field. Sickness is a real issue. The water there is polluted, so we're not going to use the water at all. We're going to brush our teeth with bottles of water. Do not drink the water. You could get parasites. There's bacteria diseases, different strains of the flu. Don't get ice in your restaurants. Don't touch the lid of bottles and stuff that you order either. I think this is incredibly important. You're going to want to You're going to want to pack crackers and Nutri-Grain bars and stuff to just kind of snack on in case you get hungry. There will be times when we are sitting down with missionaries or teachers from Upendo Christian Academy or the Bible College or the orphanages or whatever, when we are sitting with them and they are feeding us and providing a meal for us, just as respect for us visiting, and they want to serve us in that way. With that being said, you always eat the food that's in front of you. Now, I'm not sitting here expecting you to eat the whole plate every time, but what I am expecting you to do, if it is like a buffet style, to get what you think you'll eat, not load your plate and then just look at it or say things like "ew" or "ugh." Let's be respectful, and honestly, remember that these people were offering food that honestly they could use, and they could apply to people that really need it, and not just us. Use hand sanitizer as often. Bug spray is a big deal too. You can pack bug spray. Always check your items, make sure you have everything before we move places. We'll be hopping from missionary compounds to medical compounds to hostels, and so we're always going to be packing up and leaving. So always make sure you have your stuff. It is possible that you will get homesick on this trip. With that being said, if culture shock and being out of the comforts of America can really take a toll on you. So before just tackling it emotionally and mentally, just pray about it. Pray the Lord would give you peace, that He would be present. Keep a positive attitude. It helps to listen to praise and worship music, sermons, to read your Bible, to give you a sense of peace and comfort. And just remember to try and remove yourself from the situation, like complaining about your comfortable bed back home or whatever, because we're not here to be comfortable. We're here to serve. With that being said, just don't complain. Even if you're not homesick, I don't care. We're not here to meet your needs. We're here to meet the needs of others. And so that's our big deal right there. Be careful what you say around translators, because the reality is they can speak English. Now in Uganda, English is their primary language, although some of them only speak their native tongue because they have not learned English yet. But remember that somebody around you probably knows English, and there's no such thing as sliding comments and stuff that won't be heard. I would also advise you to keep a journal during this trip and disengage from America. Just leave it all behind, and remember that you signed up for this mission trip, and that the Lord not only allowed you to sign up, but He has you here for a reason. Now, in terms of Uganda, this is incredibly important. We're going to talk about what the nation looks like, some facts about the country to get you prepared in these last 10 minutes, and then we're going to do something fun. Facts about Uganda. The first time anybody stepped foot in Uganda was when the Europeans stepped foot in 1862 as explorers, and then they were also followed by missionaries. And so there has been an evangelistic influence in the country of Uganda since 1862. Immediately there was a little bit of religious wars between some Protestants and Anglicans in Buganda, which was a British establishment, and then independence movements started in the 50s, and then in 1962 Uganda was freed from the British rule and became an independent country. Now, in 1971, a military coup toppled the country's first government, and then Army Commander Idi Amin took control. And this still affects Uganda today. Idi Amin was a horrible dictator. He took a lot of money for himself, killed a ton of people. He reigned from 71 to 79. He was responsible for the death of 300,000 opponents. There was a lot of human abuse of his own people, his own soldiers. Even under the next leader, it's still 100,000 people were killed under the next leader. So Uganda has experienced some relatively serious physical and social issues in their country. Now, since 1886, there has been growth, economic growth, and there has been a constitutional referendum in 2005 that canceled a 19-year ban on multi-party politics. So there's a lot of things going on. I think that we need to remember that this is a super young country, and not only is it super young because of the dictatorship by Idi Amin, it has suffered and is full of poverty and full of people that have nothing and are trying to literally defend for themselves. And so these are people that are trying to have their needs met immediately. Now, what better place for us to engage with what the gospel offers than a place like Uganda? Education is encouraged and is seen in most parts of the country as very important. However, not everybody is educated, and the way it works is you have elementary, secondary, and then university. Rarely anybody makes it through a couple levels of elementary. Secondary is a big deal if you graduate. I don't think I've ever seen more than 5 or 6 students who have graduated from secondary when I go to the end of the year parties or semester parties. Missionary groups of several denominations are present. We have Pentecostal, Baptist, Episcopal, Church of Uganda, Church of God, Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. There's an influence of Islam as well. Islam is rapid in Uganda right now, but so is Christianity, and so those two are constantly converging and merging and kind of going head-to-head in terms of the evangelistic approach. Ugandan music is actually really cultural. I think this is one of my favorite parts. There's a lot of dancing and singing and drums. Just as you would think Africa would be like, so is Africa. And so there are drums that are made with skins of different animals, and they love it so much. And now, with referring to the food, there's bananas, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans. Now, bananas are not just yellow bananas. They're plantains. So they have this thing that they call matoke. And it is basically mashed up plantains, and honestly, you throw some Tony sauce on it, we'll be good to go. I'm going to encourage you not to eat the meats, but you can have some. They are washed and cleaned with appropriate water. However, you're still kind of taking a risk. That's up to you. I would say no. Now, the capital of Uganda is Kampala. It has about 35 to 36 million people in Uganda. Now, there's a huge account of mortality as a result of AIDS. And we'll talk about that later. English is the primary language, but there are 2 basic native tongue languages, Ganda or Lugandan, and these are within different tribes and within different villages, they have their own dialect as well, and so it varies. There's a lot of differentiating languages here, but English is the primary language as a result of the British influence in the beginning of the 1800s. The Christian religion dominates with 83% of the population. Muslim is 12%. However, Islam is rising rapidly in the country as well. Ages 15 and over are usually able to read and write. It is 82% male and 64% female as of 2010. So I think that's incredibly interesting for sure. Life expectancy in Uganda for a man is 53 years old. And that is a result of just the death rate, as a result of sickness, AIDS. It's troubling. The police are viewed as cruel people there. It's very corrupt. There's not a lot of justice, not a lot of government systems. And as a result of that, people die all the time and get away with it. People murder all the time. Now, there are about 1.5 million people living with HIV and AIDS. And so it's a serious issue there. Now, at this time, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take some time and go over Ugandan wedding dance, and it's a traditional dance that happens when visitors, especially when visitors come, not just at weddings, but when Americans come to a school, they don't know how to dance. So at this time, what I'll do is I'll show a video of the Ugandan dance. I'll have everybody stand up, and then we will learn how to do the dance. It'll be really fun. And then I'll sit down. And so I want to end with a spiritual aspect of this training. Our center verse for this trip is 1 Peter 3:15. It says, "Always be ready to give defense for the hope that's within you with meekness and gentleness, and without fear." And so our focus is that we are always ready to be able to give a reason for why we live the way we do and what we believe is true. Whether it be a local in Amsterdam or a missionary or anybody in Uganda, we have an obligation to reflect the image of Christ. And at this time is when I'll focus on the spiritual aspect of the trip and discuss the potential personal effect as well. Now, at the end, as a result of that, I'm going to challenge people to get up and understanding that our audience is going to be people that are interested in short-term mission trips, assuming that they're religious. I'll discuss the importance of being able to give a 5-minute testimony, 3 to 5 minute testimony of who they are and when they were saved, and it'll be on the spot. And so the reason for always being ready to defend, to kind of highlight our verse and understand what that means and what that looks like. And then that will be pretty much the end of this mock training. Now within that, there's a lot to cut out. I think that I didn't even go through everything that I wanted to. I think there's definitely things I could cut down on and not emphasize as much, but things I totally could bring in and fix. But this is the basic shell of what the mock training looks like.